Hello, welcome to Providencia Island. I'm about to trek into the Parque Natural Regional Park. There's a peak and it gives us supposedly a nice view over the landscape of the island. Let's get going. Bueno. Right, after a bit of scrabbling, this appears to be the route. Well, they've gone to the trouble of building a proper path. That's nice. So it's been a bit of a while between se prohíbe el paso de animales sobre el puente. It's been a bit of time since I've done one of these recordings, and truth be told, I did one in Cartagena, but I actually tried 2 times to get something I liked out of that little neck of the woods. But Cartagena is a very noisy place. It's always very busy any time of day, really, and for that reason you just trying to get a recording that was worth doing, just couldn't do it. It was so difficult. So sadly those videos are lost to time. Mostly me having to pause whilst I run past a very large vehicle or group of noisy people. Yeah, Cartagena is an interesting one. It is UNESCO World Heritage, all that good stuff, and sure enough it is very picturesque, but it's a town that's thrived on that as an industry, and you know, it could be argued that the same is true of Cusco, but to me Cusco was nowhere near as intense a place to be. I mean, it did have its share of people trying to peddle you stuff the whole time, but quite honestly not a patch on how it was in Cartagena. Cartagena was very, very, well, at least the old town, the pretty part, was very, very intense and very in your face, with kind of people trying to hard sell you things all the time, and you know, just it being very catered towards tourism, which you can understand. I respect it from a local point of view. People want to make ends meet, but sadly it does kind of detract from the charm of the place. At least it did for me. So there you go. That was not to be. And after Cartagena, I've sort of been all over the place really in Colombia. I visited Medellin. I actually stayed in Medellin for quite a long time, but kind of didn't really feel anything. I didn't feel that strongly that there was kind of a good run or a good walk to talk and have the camera, so it didn't transpire. And actually, perhaps if I had felt more well in Salento, I might have taken the camera on my walk to the valley there. Yeah, so Antioquia is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think one of the most beautiful regions I've ever seen. Strikingly almost English in terms of the foliage. Not quite, but close. And when you're in Antioquia, you kind of double take, because you almost feel like you're in somewhere like Surrey. Granted, it's a lot higher, it's a lot more, it's a little more mountainous than you'll find in Surrey, but the greenery is profoundly similar to English greenery. And yeah, I enjoyed Antioquia very much, and especially the Region Cafeteria, where they make and grow coffee. So beautiful there. And I really think of all the places I've been in Colombia, that region would be the one I would consider returning to if/were I had to return to Colombia. But yeah, since visiting that region, well, so my plans changed quite dramatically. I was going to head after Medellin to Popayan, which is close to the Ecuador border, but there have been indigenous protests, more solidarity to them, but said protests have unfortunately blocked roads, or at least they had been at the time that I was travelling in that direction. So I made a decision to switch tact and head to the coffee region instead, which I don't regret now. I'm sure there are awesome things to see in the I think it's the Cauca region, but yeah, for now it was equally rewarding to go to the coffee region. And from there I had time and made a decision to fly here. Well, there's two islands, San Andres and Providencia. We're currently on Providencia. San Andres is the main connection to Colombia. It's the larger of the two islands, and I think it's something like 150k kind of northeast of San Andres. You have Providencia, which is very, very kind of island life. It's got a tiny little town, and kind of various residences scattered around it, but it's very ditty here. The beaches are stunning, absolutely beautiful, and yeah, you can snorkel and dive and all that good stuff. But I thought I'd change tact today because I've done quite a lot of sea related things recently, and head up into the rugged inland because I saw pictures online and thought, yeah, that looks awesome, and I do like a good hike. Cockspur. I am common and abundant, known for my big prickles. Please take care with the ants that always live with me because their bite hurts. Duly noted. Well, beware the prickles. I don't know if the camera could pick that up or not. Just reading a little sign. Yeah, so I tried diving the other day, and it was awesome and kind of scary at the same time. I felt like the team I did it with a bit disorganized, because I had a session that was barely 30 minutes in the water one day, just going through the absolute basics, kind of life-saving essential kind of stuff. Then the next day they dumped me in at 24 meters, which, so I'm led to believe, is quite advanced, and felt advanced and felt quite scary. I actually ran out of oxygen down at 24 meters and had to end up sharing with the instructor, which again I just sort of felt like I hadn't really been prepared. I hadn't been given quite enough training to feel comfortable down there, and for that reason I ran out of air quite quickly, because there's an art form to moderating your breathing down there. You simultaneously have to breathe deeply but not too deeply. But everything I've been instructed to do was simply breathe deeply. Well, so I did that, and it turned out I was breathing too deeply because I ended up sucking all my oxygen out at a rate of knots. So yeah, I kind of felt like I didn't feel that safe with this particular team, and that were something to go wrong, I wouldn't necessarily feel that I quite knew what to do, and that they would necessarily deal with it very well. So originally I'd hoped to do a bunch more dives with them, but in the end I felt kind of uncomfortable. So it's a damn shame. I got to be honest, like I'd love to do some more, and I probably will do some more, but I'm gonna have to wait, because it's just not worth doing if you don't feel safe. I think it is potentially a very dangerous sport. So yeah, everything I've read online as well suggests that you kind of want to go with people who know their stuff and who don't play fast and loose with the rules and so on. So yes, I guess next time I'll put some more money into it and do it in a place that feels a bit safer. But yeah, suffice to say, I'd recommend scuba diving. I'd recommend people try it. It's really, really interesting, and getting down there, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Oh yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Hi, here.
It's beautiful up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd recommend it. I'd recommend diving. I'd recommend diving because, in spite of it being kind of scary and me not feeling like I could fully enjoy it the time I did it, it well and truly is like kind of pulling a curtain back on another world. And you know, yeah, we've all seen nature documentaries about, you know, the animals at the bottom of the ocean, and you know, but there is something about it. There is something about when you're down there and you can sort of feel the depth, sense the deepness. You know, as you're heading down, you start to think, man, like it's like you've fallen from a great height into a different world. It is very surreal, and the life down there is not familiar with you. And certainly in the kind of corally areas, the reefs that we saw, it's kind of so abundant. It's like looking at a city of fish, and yeah, it's mind-blowing. You know, they kind of look at you as if to say, what are you doing here? It's they're completely mystified as to what these interlopers are in their world. Especially the sharks, so I gather. Mercifully, though I saw sharks, none of them took an interest in me, but supposedly the sharks can be very curious. Generally not aggressive. They do take an interest in humans. It's just kind of obviously quite intelligent animals, and, trying to make head or tail of what you are. Yeah, all the advice is don't pet the sharks, don't touch the sharks really at all, because anything that could be construed as a threat could lead them to attack you, and that is not something you want 25 or 20 meters down. It's because, not least, I think one of the jarring things about scuba diving is you can't just come back up. If there's an emergency, whatever it is, simply shooting back up at high speed, quite possibly going to kill you, because the decompression of the air is a process you have to do over time. If you don't, at the very least it'll probably injure your ears, and at most, you know, yeah, like I say, it can cause you serious brain damage. Not nice. But I don't know, like, I think the thing is, it's weird, but like the lessons I took and the stuff I've read on the subject, it's more like, I'd probably say in terms of learning scuba diving, it strikes me as comparable to learning to drive. You know, driving is exhilarating when you first do it. It's less so when you're commuting every day, but you know, when you first learn to drive and when you finally hit that moment of independence it gives you, it's so exhilarating, and you know, you feel empowered. But all the same, when you're driving a vehicle, especially at speed, you appreciate, you know, how incredibly dangerous cars are, or at least you should, you know, that you can kill yourself and kill other people if you're driving recklessly. You know, there's a kind of responsibility in it. And there's something about scuba diving, granted it's unlikely you'll kill anyone else, but you'll certainly kill yourself if you start being an idiot about it. So, you know, it's one of those things in life that, you know, shouldn't necessarily be avoided simply because it's dangerous, but should be treated with respect if you're going to do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I look at it anyway. But admittedly, it's not for everyone. I definitely, after the first dive, was definitely kind of not sure whether this was something I'd do again. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, you know, in spite of the discomforts of going down there, it is amazing to see kind of this other world that opens up for you when you get down to the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, so that's I guess my most recent adventure. The culture is strikingly different again from Colombian mainland culture, which itself is divided much as it is in England between different communities and different cities, different regions. So interesting. But here it feels much more, you know, decidedly Caribbean. The language is a little hard to get your head around because it is kind of a mixture of Creole English and Spanish, and they really kind of mix it up. So if you try and listen to a conversation being had between people, friends or whatever, trying to work out what's being said is difficult, because for me it's sort of like, if I'm going to speak Spanish, I switch on my Spanish brain. If I'm going to speak English, I switch on my English brain, and I need to concentrate in whichever language. But suddenly you've got this thing that's a very, very you know, well, in the first place accent heavy, in the second place mixed way of speaking, you know, and you'll hear both good morning and buenos dias or buenas all the time, kind of used interchangeably, you know, and everything else.